from the 37th parallel on America's haunted highway, it's Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pixelated Paranormal. And I was thinking about doing a cryptid encounter for this, but I think it's just going to be a standalone episode on its own because aliens aren't really cryptids.
They're still freaky as shit, though.
100%.
Well, on tonight's episode, we're going to be jumping into one of the more bizarre alien encounters that we have reported on before, called the Zanfretta Abduction. Now, you guys and gals probably remember we've mentioned Zanfretta before because we actually talked about him briefly twice. Once on episode 119, which was the Halloween episode from 2019, and also on episode 133, Not Your Grandma's Alien Abductions, when somehow we brought him back up as another one of the bizarre alien encounters. Well, the Zanfretta Abduction actually deserves its own full episode because of just how intriguing it is and how, actually digging deeper into it, we barely even scratched the surface on some of the weird stuff that he experienced. So that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Sweet.
But first of all, anything new with you guys?
Not at all. It is quarantine time without the damn sleepy time tea, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, everything's out. We went to buy some workout equipment, like some kettlebells and some suspension straps to do, some different workouts on, and all that shit's gone. I guess everybody had the same exact idea.
Yeah,
Bastards.
It's the weirdest things are always sold out. It's I don't know, a lot of sketchy stuff going on. You know, everywhere, in every which way,
and right. And we don't want to make it a whole humdrum every episode about quarantine, but I also want to say too that hats off to any of you guys out there in the medical industry who've had to wear this PPE stuff.
Oh God, it's horrid.
Since day one, Preston and I have had to be wearing it. Steve, you have to wear it. I'm on day 2 of wearing those masks, and I just about want to rip them off and maybe... Well, I don't want to... Never mind.
What are you going to do, shove it up your own ass?
No, why would I do that?
You said, I want to rip it off, and then what else are you going to do with it?
What kind of state... I was going to say, and burn every last one of them, but people need them, so I wasn't going to make that... Why would I shove it up my own ass? What kind of protest would that be?
I thought that's where you were going with it, and you were like, wait a minute, that doesn't work, so never mind.
No, I was just going to say it's tasteless to make a joke about destroying all of it.
Okay.
But no, what's crazy is, like, I had surgery on my ears when I was younger. I had to get tubes, which is common, but they got stuck, and so I had to actually have the doctors go in and remove them surgically. And so behind your ear, kind of right by where that little cup meets the side of your head, they actually had to cut behind my ear and cut that part open to remove the tube that had actually gotten embedded in the tissue. So you have
gills now.
I know. Exhaust ports.
Wait, that explains two things. You have gills and your not the webbed feet, but the spaced feet. Toes, anyway.
My hand feet.
Yeah. Whoa, you are a mutant, dude.
My simian toes. Yeah. But yeah, so that's wearing those masks, man. If you loop them over your ears, it rests right on the scars, and it's enough. Like, already my hearing has been impacted by it. It's super weird, man. Whoa. So I have to basically take and find ways to extend those loops so they're not so tight across my ears.
Yeah, when I went for essentials, mind everybody, groceries and whatnot, and a candle. I got a great candle.
Jesus.
Nothing better than burn a nice candle. All right. Okay.
I mean, while you're going to be at home, might as well smell nice.
Right. So when I was there, to be fair, it was like right in the main aisle. So when I walked by and I saw somebody that I know, I could tell that they were so miserable, you know, like fucking working during that time. So anybody that has to work essential work, stay your shit. Keep doing what you do and know that you're appreciated, even though customers can be quite
fucking terrible.
Terrible. Fucking terrible right now. Like, let's not get it twisted. I could only imagine, like everybody everybody's stressed, and when people are stressed, they don't make the right decisions, and they're very brash with shit. But I don't know. It's just all three of us are essential workers, so we have to do what we have to do, and I don't know.
And you know what? If you're listening to this and you're guilty of this, maybe find a way to leave people at home. You don't have to take all 6 of your family members out to, a grocery store or to buy lumber. There's no reason to bring both parents and 4 kids or, 3 generations of people. Just leave people at home.
Yeah. And I noticed, a friend of mine did bring up a good point. Single parents who have multiple children that can't either their maturity level, or like that, and they don't have that, like they have to do that, and they get judged when they go there because, she or he has to bring, or that person has to bring in all their children. But so, and it's the same thing with they're recommending everybody wear masks in public, and, all 3 of us here have probably, I guarantee we've never experienced this in life, but, especially now, you would never think to be looked at differently because you're wearing a mask on your face. Well, people of color do that now, and they're still getting, dirty looks and harassment through that.
Yeah.
Very just true. The weirdest things you'd never think about. And then, it becomes a reality very quick, and, just stay home.
Yeah, there's always going to be a caveat to, every policy,
Yeah.
but...
And one more thing, so we can get off this quarantine talk, because everybody's tired of fucking talking about it. Because we are an unusual, strange podcast, I think that I've brought this up several times since then, talking to people and stuff. When all this stuff happened and the state of emergency was addressed, all the states started saying no more public schools, no more colleges, blah, 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 people working from home. At that point, don't you think an initiative would have happened with the tops like Facebook, Google, blah, 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 that already have this technology in place to stream, broadcast, Twitch, Mixer type stuff, be able to broadcast an event like a PowerPoint or a meeting that people have been doing forever. Skype's been around forever, Discord, all these apps. And then out of nowhere, the number 1 app used across the world right now, on top of the charts on your phones, on your tablets, on your app stores or whatever device you use, is Zoom. It's everywhere.
It's Pornhub.
Yeah, Pornhub. Yeah. It's the Zoom shit. And how does that happen? I do not understand.
Because I'll tell you why. Because Zoom is the number 1 resource for big corporations and small businesses to host remote viewing meetings, and whatnot. That's why. But it's on the tip of everybody's tongue.
But and I understand. I understand the need for the app. But what I'm saying is how did Google or Facebook or any of these other big entities not have an app like that launching at the same time, or already have something in place? They already have all that shit in place. Discord does it. I mean, you can
well, who owns Zoom? I thought Facebook probably owned Zoom.
I doubt it. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, it just seems too, and then if you want to get into the more conspiracy thing, with TikTok, the TikTok app being so vulnerable.
I thought I hated Snapchat.
It's a China-based company, and people that have actively developed for that app that got out, and they've actively said that hey, this is scanning all of everything about you and your face, and then they're implementing that into AI and all this shit, and just a dangerous app, right? And then the Zoom thing comes around, and then there's been stuff in the news about rooms that are supposedly private locked for certain, like a class or a group or a meeting would happen in there. Somehow they would be hacked, and then a penis would show up on the screen, or a Nazi symbol. You know what I'm saying? This app is so new, the security is there, but it's not there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and that's just really something that quick, build up, boom, in there, and all this people using all their, info. Like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of scams going around. Anytime we have something like this happen with there's so many scams going out with emails and letters, and it's just crazy, man. So no one's ever done it on an app before that we know of. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way I think about that. But anyway, enough about quarantine. I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I mean, that's a good point. And I mean, with Zoom, it's also, funny is not the proper word, but just how many accidental slips there have been on Zoom, with people walking into their bedroom naked after a shower and not realizing it's still streaming and stuff like that. Or,
that Reddit post about a girl couldn't be at college no more, so she had to either stay in the dorm room, fuck that, or go back to her parents' house, where her home is. And so she goes home. She's it was kind of late at night. She figured everybody was in bed. She was, just in some panties and, topless, and ran to the kitchen real quick to make a bowl of cereal or some shit. And as she's walking in there, apparently the monitor had went to sleep, but the webcam was still going. Wow. And then within 30 minutes, she gets a text from her dad saying, "Hey, just want to let you know that unfortunately the webcam was on from the previous Zoom call." And he's like, "I swear I hung that up. But, a couple people in the chat saw that, and just want to let you know that way, it was what the fuck? That type of thing." So it's
that's kind of a sidebar. Did you ever see the John Barrowman infamous hot tub tape? I shouldn't call it a tape. YouTube video. The guy, John Barrowman, the one who plays Captain Jack Harkness.
Oh, yes. I remember that, where his
on Doctor Who. Preston, did you get far enough in Doctor Who to know who Captain Jack Harkness was?
I am. Vaguely, that sounds familiar.
Well, yeah, there was a YouTube video of him just doing a live stream like, "Hey, what's up, everybody? Just wanted to say hi." And he's in his hot tub, and of course, you just see him from the shoulders up. And I don't know if it's his husband or just his partner, but he comes walking out of frame, into frame, just bare-ass naked, just elephant trunk swinging.
Yeah, that was crazy, yeah. But that was more of a live stream fail. Is his husband, boyfriend, whatever, didn't realize that he had been, broadcasting something, and then that's crazy.
Yeah, but just to play it off like, "Honey," and he's like, "Oh, oops."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, don't mind my you said an elephant trunk, dude. It's crazy." It was just swinging, man. Just Preston, you got to check it out. It's great.
It's funny. Yeah. I'll send you the video. But so lesson in point, guys, just put a sticky note over your webcam when you're not using it.
Yeah. I used to laugh at stuff like that. I remember when they had one for the Kinect and shit like that. I'd be like, "Oh, that's hilarious," and my dad's one of them people that puts the paper over the webcam. Not that he ever uses it.
Oh, dude, I was too. I always have been. Just for that reason, man. After watching that, Edward, whatever movie that was.
Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden. After watching that, dude, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Damn, I should have made a Scissorhands joke.
Well, now back to our regular scheduled episode. Italy, winter, 1978. As a private security guard makes his usual patrol rounds, he makes a truly terrifying discovery that thrusts him into one of history's most bizarre extraterrestrial encounters to ever be recorded. This is a story of the Zanfretta Abductions. On the cold, cloudy evening of December 6, 1978, a 26-year-old night watchman named Pier Zanfretta was on a routine patrol in the village of Torriglia when he stumbled into an unbelievably horrifying encounter with terrifying creatures that he described as not of this world, that would go on to change his life forever. On that winter evening, Zanfretta says that he was in his patrol car, carefully making his way down the treacherous icy roads on his way to an unoccupied country home of the security watch client, Dr. Ettore Raihi. When the engine of his patrol car, headlights, and radio all simultaneously and unexplainably died.
You know you're fucked.
I mean, that's definitely... Yeah.
That's when you know you're like...
Alarm bells are going off. Yeah. Without any idea as to why his car suddenly shut off, Zanfretta began to scan the area nearby Raihi's house that he was checking on when he claimed to have seen 4 strange lights moving around in the garden area of the house. Now, assuming that the strange beams were coming from the flashlights of burglars or thieves, Zanfretta quietly climbed out of his car, withdrawing his revolver and a flashlight, courageously committed to protecting his client's property. He silently slipped through the open gate and crept along a rock wall in an attempt to sneak up and surprise what he had assumed to be just normal burglars. However, in an instant, he got the shock of his life. Just as he was about to leap out and confront the 4 trespassers, Zanfretta simultaneously felt someone touch his shoulder from behind. And when he spun around, he pointed his revolver at the stranger. Instead of finding an average thief, however, in the light of his flashlight, he saw an entity that he described
an enormous green, ugly, and frightful creature with undulating skin. Fuck me. It was as though he were very fat or dressed in a loose gray tunic, no less than 10 feet tall, I'd say.
In later interviews, Zanfretta would include more explicit descriptions of these extraterrestrial beasts, including such features as hairy, greenish skin, points on the side of their faces, rounded fingertips, monstrous, yellow, triangular eyes, and red veins across their foreheads. Based on this description, these life forms may be akin to what some believe are particularly nasty breeds of aliens known as the reptilians. He also described a unique mechanical apparatus that fit over their mouths, which enabled them to breathe in Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere. And later, while under hypnosis, he recalled asking the creatures about the odd device.
I just want to know, man, why don't you have a mouth? You've only got those pieces of iron with a net and the weird shiny light. What the hell?
Zanfretta was so caught off guard by the... Yeah, it should be noted that Preston's ad-libbing a bit, and I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it too, because I'm going to do the same.
Preston's pretty much reading this as if he was Zanfretta.
Yep.
Zanfretta was so caught off guard by the creature that stood before him, he immediately dropped his flashlight, but somehow he managed to grab it and run away towards his patrol car. When he says that out of nowhere, a brilliant green light illuminated him and the ground around him like a large spotlight. Looking over his shoulder, he saw a massive triangular-shaped UFO, which he claimed was so large it eclipsed his client's whole house with its size. And it ascended with a hiss. At this point, Zanfretta says that he was blasted with a searing wave of heat that continued to bear down on him until he made it back to his patrol car, where he then radioed back to his security company's center of operations in nearby Genoa. And his clock radio at the time said it was now 12:15 a.m. Now, to give Zanfretta's story some weight, Carlo Tocciolino, the security company's radio operator, testified that when Zanfretta radioed into the office, he was speaking in a confused and agitated fashion, incoherently babbling about some kind of inhuman beings. When Tocciolino asked him to describe what he was assaulted by, Zanfretta yelled back,
"No, they aren't men! They aren't men! My God, are they ugly! And get your hands off me, you damn dirty apes!"
At that point, the communications were abruptly broken off, and Tocciolino called the chief of security, Lieutenant Giovanni Casiba. Casiba was certainly concerned with both the welfare of his man and also the security company client's property. And so the security office immediately sent out another patrol car with 2 more security officers to check on Zanfretta and the Raihi residents. However, due to the treacherous conditions of the icy roads,
Of course.
the second security guards didn't reach the Raihi property until about 1 hour later, around 1:15 in the morning, when the 2 night watchmen, Walter Lauria and Raimondo Maschia, found Zanfretta lying in a prone position on the frozen ground in front of the Raihi house. When Zanfretta saw the approaching guards, he leapt to his feet with his eyes bulging in fear, and he pulled his pistol and flashlight on both the 2 unfamiliar figures. He aimed his firearm at both his comrades, but luckily, nobody was injured. Loria and Maschia both attested that the usual timid and lucid family man was irrational.
That's not how Preston's been at all.
Right?
So now the opposite of Preston's demeanor will be.
Right.
What happened? I just got abducted. No problem.
Yeah. We're describing, like a Harrison Ford character, and Preston is just doing like the later Mel Gibson character.
I'm like a drunk Charleston Heston.
Yeah, no shit.
Okay, is that your inspiration you're channeling?
Yeah.
Both security guards attested that the usually timid and lucid family man was irrational and did not appear to recognize them, nor did he seem to comprehend their urgent request for him to lower his weapon. The guards, fearing for their own welfare, rushed Zanfretta and fortunately managed to disarm him before there were any unintentional or accidental injuries. The 2 security guards later testified that they were shocked to discover how warm his clothes were, despite the fact that he had apparently been laying on the frozen ground for the last hour.
Dope.
Now here's where things begin to get interesting. Zanfretta's account of his experience was so disturbing that the Italian military police, the Carabinieri, were immediately dispatched to the area in order to investigate. Later that night, they found 2 very distinct marks in the frost-covered grass in the backyard of the Raihi's house. These odd imprints were possibly created by the triangular UFO's landing gear. Each spot measured 9 feet in diameter and were shaped like horseshoes. Then Commandant of the Torriglia station, Antonio Nucci, who had known Zanfretta for many years, stated unequivocally that he believed in the veracity of the guards' frankly extraordinary testimony. When asked his opinion of the mental stability of the professional sentry, Nucci answered,
I can state with certainty that he is a clear-thinking man with no strange fantasies in his head. When we went to investigate the scene the next day, and he was so scared. Only something exceptional could have frightened him so.
And there's even more evidence that adds to the veracity of Zanfretta's encounter.
This is a different person, right?
Yeah.
So, during the investigation, Nucci revealed that they received reports from 52 Tortilla citizens saying that they noticed an odd glaring illumination emanating from the direction of the Raihi house at exactly the same time. On that exact same night in the December, the Zanfretta testified to witnessing the enormous triangular UFO spaceship thing rise up to the atmosphere.
Now, this much of the story we've more or less covered for the most part in those 2 previous episodes. But the story, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, goes much deeper. Soon after Zanfretta's story was recorded, details of the encounter had spread, and not long after, press had gotten wind of the extraordinary tale of spaceships and giant green lizards, and they flooded the town. And the reactions from the news reporters ranged anywhere from light-hearted skepticism all the way to angry ridicule. Some even went as far as to flat out assert that he was lying about the entire thing, or he was mentally ill. Nearly all the reporters eventually adopted the latter attitude, except for one specific reporter named Rino Di Stefano, who was working for the local Genoa newspaper, Il Corriere Mercantile. Di Stefano was intrigued by the Zanfretta case and wrote several articles on the subject. Unlike most of his peers, DiStefano could not rationalize why a husband and father who had a great job and a very respected profession would jeopardize not only his career, but also his reputation and family safety by making up a story about space aliens. So Reno contacted Zanfretta in an attempt to get to the bottom of the wild and unbelievable story. After talking to Zanfretta and some of the 52 witnesses of the light show anomaly, DiStefano became a believer in the extraterrestrial encounter himself. He said that Zanfretta didn't want to be famous. He actually refused the notoriety because he was so worried about his job and his family. Zanfretta also told DiStefano that not long after the news outlets started running the stories about his experience, he also started to receive countless prank phone calls where he said,
People call me on the phone at all hours just to play jokes on me. I don't know what it was that I saw, but I saw it, damn it. I'm not a liar. If I could have, I wouldn't have reported my experiences. Now, I see the consequences.
And the added stress of the public ridicule and harassment was beginning to take its toll on both he and his wife. On December 23, 1978, in order to investigate deeper into the Zanfretta experience, DiStefano suggested that he undergo hypnosis.
What a Christmas present. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Christmas morning? Like this is 2 days before. Man, Merry Christmas. Remember that fucking alien story you told me the other day?
Right, right. Well, and you know what's funny too is right around Christmas was a time that Whitley Strieber was abducted by aliens, supposedly out of his country cottage as well. So maybe they tend to favor us humans around Christmas time.
Boom.
DiStefano suggested that Zanfretta undergo hypnosis in order to get a better understanding of what may have happened, in case Zanfretta subconsciously had buried any further trauma from the experience 2.5 weeks prior. Now, Zanfretta agreed, so the session was held in Genoa and was presided over by a member of the Italian Association of Medical Hypnosis, Dr. Mauro Moretti, who was also a psychotherapist. Now, much to their surprise, the hypnosis session revealed that Zanfretta's experience went much further than just the accidental encounter with the being from another planet.
God, could you imagine being in that room?
Oh, dude.
Fuck.
No. Yeah. Just watching Communion, that movie with Christopher Walken, dude, his hypnosis sessions are pretty unnerving at some points. These gigantoid reptilian creatures had also abducted him. Under hypnosis, Zanfretta recalled these terrifying apparitions had actually taken him to a different location that he described to as being hot and luminous. And while there, they carried out a physical examination and interrogated him as well. According to Zanfretta, these creatures did not speak Italian, but used a strange, luminous device to translate what they were saying. Somehow, so he could clearly understand them. And Zanfretta learned that the creatures had come from a planet called Teutonia, which was located in the third galaxy, and they told him,
They said they just wanted to talk to Earth people, and I'm here to tell you, have you ever seen the movie Independence Day? Because that shit's about to happen because they're coming back with all their fucking friends.
Mind you, Independence Day happened way after 1978. I mean, more accurately, have you seen that movie, Alien? Hey, that's okay. Artistic liberties.
Yeah.
And it should be noted here that what he really said is they wanted to talk to Earth people and they would soon return in larger numbers.
They're our friends.
And
they want to help us.
So when the aliens noted they would soon return, this could be relative, to the concept of time from one species hailing from another world to ours. So soon could mean, a day, a year, a century, who knows. Now this sounds like great news for Earth, but things for Zanfretta were only going to get more terrifying. 3 days after his hypnosis session, on December 26th, around 11:45 p.m., Zanfretta says that he was driving his patrol car through the Bargagli Tunnel near the Scafera pass-through in the rain and dense fog when he suddenly lost control of the vehicle. Now, since it was about 3 weeks after the initial encounter, A panic-stricken guard had enough wits about him. The panic-stricken guard had enough sense about him, and sensing that something wasn't right again, he immediately radioed in, reporting that his car was now driving on its own. Zanfretta desperately tried to slam his foot on the brakes and pull at the steering wheel, but he said his actions had absolutely no effect on the Fiat that he was driving, and he was horrified as it continued to barrel through the rain and dense fog, and continued up the highway's steep incline. After traveling for what he estimated to be about a mile, the Fiat finally came to a dead stop. Zanfretta was thrust forward at such momentum that he hit his head against the steering wheel, and when he came to his senses, he noticed now both he and the car were bathed in a searing hot light, similar to what had blasted him during his first encounter. So as all this is going down, the security company's radio operator that received Zanfretta's call claimed that when he called in, Zanfretta spoke in a very controlled voice, stating that,
Look, when I said Jesus take the wheel, this is not what I was talking about. No, he said, the car had stopped. I saw a bright light. Now I'm getting out.
And then, just as the first encounter, Zanfretta and his vehicle were discovered at 1:10 a.m. by another pair of security guards who were dispatched to go look
Worthless
for him
security
again.
guards.
I know. Is it a coincidence that every time the Zanfretta goes out, it's always like an hour away from the control post?
Yeah, no shit.
The first man to spot Zanfretta was Sergeant Emanuele Travanzoli. Travanzoli stated that he found Zanfretta in a field near the road, and again, just like the first incident, despite the continuing downpour of rain and the moisture in the air from the fog, Zanfretta's clothing was still warm to the touch and inexplicably dry. Travanzoli claimed that when he found him, Zanfretta was again in a state of shock, quivering and weeping. This time, the men on the scene were disturbed to hear the companion they discovered declare,
They say I must leave with them. What about my children? I don't wanna.
Once again, the military was called in, and after they arrived on the scene, the officers found, much to their befuddlement, that even though the Fiat had been exposed to the cold downpour for the extended period of time, the roof of the car was hot, as if it had been baking in a scorching sun. Equally inexplicably, the officers revealed that the auto's interior was as hot as an oven, as well as if it had been sitting inside an extremely hot room. Now, because that's not weird enough in itself, the military police also discovered the Fiat was surrounded by unexplainable, abnormally large boot prints measuring over 20 inches long by almost 8 inches wide. These bizarre, Bigfoot-like prints had a distinctive bare spot between the sole and the heel, like that of a human's arch. This remains to be one of the most intriguing traces of actual physical evidence to ever have been left at a scene of an alleged alien abduction. The Carabinieri, the Italian military then came across Zanfretta's firearm, a Smith & Wesson .38 Special, that they reported to have been fired 5 times, although Zanfretta couldn't recall who or what he had fired his gun at.
Due to the unexplained nature of the use of his firearm and Zanfretta's story slowly becoming public knowledge, the military police held a full investigation into the unlikely events. On January 1979, all data in the case was collected by Commandant Nucci in a file labeled The Report of the Sighting of Unidentified Flying Objects by Fortunato Zanfretta. The file was then forwarded to the magistrate's court in Genoa with an inquiry as to what action should be taken. Then, after the report had changed enough hands, because no one really knew what the fuck to do with it, it was delivered to Magistrate Russo, who, after a year of deliberation, certified on January 11, 1980, that the investigation could be filed away with a declaration of no crime committed.
Because you can't commit an alien to Earth crimes.
Boom.
However, the Italian military also informed the Italian Department of Interior and other military commands about the incident, saying that the degree of reliability related to the bizarre events was actually good, which is astonishing. If that's true, that means your state, your country's military said that they actually kind of believe in what you
like
reported.
the one with the Navy here, right? Wasn't it the Navy?
Yeah, the Navy reported and actually confirmed the infamous Tic Tac UFO video. Which is insane because if your government, or at least your military, is coming forward publicly and saying that makes you ask, what else have they seen that they're too afraid to release to the public? And what's interesting here, and it's also kind of odd, how concerned the military seemed, because on the surface, the story seemed a little far-fetched. But in December of 1978, there were so many UFO sightings reported across Italy that a former member of the Italian parliament actually asked both Italy's premier, Guerriero Adrianetti, and the Minister of Defense, Attio Ruffini, to inform the Italian Congress about their opinion concerning the nature of the recent UFO sightings. And he also asked to have further evaluation on the potential threats of these bizarre UFOs and alien creatures that they could pose against the citizens of Italy. As for Zanfretta, after his second paranormal encounter, he became sort of a local celebrity. And his employers were also equally concerned about all the publicity he was getting, as well as his mental health, especially being an armed guard. They actually ended up asking a prominent neurologist, Dr. Giorgio Giannotti, to examine Zanfretta. His diagnosis was that the man is in a state of shock, but he is perfectly sane. Dr. Giannotti's conclusions helped to improve the credibility of this bizarre event. But also, as they do, the naysayers were starting to make life a living hell for Zanfretta and his family. It was then that Zanfretta agreed to undergo hypnosis under the supervision of Dr. Moretti, yet again, and this time, he consented to allow it to be televised in an effort to prove he's not insane. And you can actually find this video on YouTube. It's in Italian, so you got to read subtitles, but we can find a link and post that as well, because it's actually pretty interesting. Yeah. During this televised interview, Zanfretta...
I figure, is he wearing the helmet device from when they in Ghostbusters when they do Rick Moranis' head? That's what I'm picturing.
The colander and all the lights. I hope so. During the televised interview, Zanfretta recalled being stripped and then forced by the alien creatures to wear a strange helmet-like device. I forgot that was in here.
That's awesome.
Are you the Keymaster?
Yeah, no shit.
The device enabled him to understand their language, but caused him a tremendous amount of pain. He also remembered one of the aliens taking his gun and firing the bullets into a panel-like structure that he assumed was used to see if human weapons had the capability of harming these creatures. Zanfretta, then noticeably agitated, said that he feared that he might be required to leave his home and his family behind.
Listen, I know that you need me, but I don't want to. I just want to be left alone. Come on, I have 2 children. I feel good this way, and after all, you're not human beings. You're horrible, nasty, reptilian creatures.
Hundreds of thousands of viewers watched the extraordinary interview broadcast on TV, but instead of clearing his name, it only further exacerbated the skepticism of his critics and elevated his cult celebrity to global level. And shortly after the airing of the interview, Zanfretta was abducted a 3rd time. On the night of July 30th, 1979, Zanfretta was assigned motorcycle patrol in the residential area of Quato in Genoa, far away from the previous sector that he'd been experiencing his first 2 encounters. But it seems it wasn't far enough to get away from these enigmatic captors.
Bro, they come from a different planet. You think they're going to give a shit about miles away?
No, they're not, because he vanished yet again. And once more, his fellow guards were first on the scene, and after
These are the worst guards ever. Seriously. And why do they, like, how does this guy still have a job? And every single one of them is, like,
Right.
way far away from anybody else. I don't know. Maybe ditch the guards and be like, hey, maybe there's somebody closer, like, I don't know, a first responder?
civilians at this point. After a 2-hour search of the area, they found him on the summit of nearby Mount Farsi. It should be noted that local eyewitnesses claimed that they had not seen the young guard or his motorcycle travel up the single road that led to the top of the mountain. So yet again, he was taken under hypnotic regression. Only this time, the session was conducted at the International Center of Medical and Psychological Hypnosis in Milan, where on his own request, Zanfretta was injected with sodium pentothal, aka the truth serum, administered by Professor Marco Marchessin. While under the effects of the drug, Zanfretta claimed that he was lifted from the ground into an alien spacecraft by a mysterious green light.
That's awesome.
Following the regression procedure, Professor Marchessin confirmed no human being can knowingly lie when he is under sodium pentothal. So I think it's very probable Zanfretta had these encounters.
That's incredible, man. I couldn't imagine, like, seeing that in person. Be like, there's no way to not lie from this.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting here is it's an abduction case in another country, a fairly developed, civilized country, and they're getting completely different treatment.
Yeah.
You know, sure, he's being called a kook and a liar and a fraud and a nut job, but his own government is halfway believing him, or at least, you know, humoring the idea that, well, let's give him, you know, this truth serum. Let's have him get, you know, regressed, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's coming back with some pretty decent, you know, evidence. Cool. So that was good news for Zanfretta, but unfortunately, still not the end of his bizarre adventure. But this time, for once, he wouldn't be the only one to experience the unexplainable. On Saturday, December 2nd, 1979, nearly a year after the first experience, again around 10:30 p.m., Zanfretta disappeared for the fourth time while driving an Aston Martin in the suburbs of Genoa. This time, however, the 26-year-old would not be the only one to have a brush with the inexplainable. While driving in the hills of Genoa, searching for their missing cohort yet again, 4 patrol guards claimed to have clearly seen a very strange, cloud-like object floating above them. Suddenly, 2 beams of light seemed to emanate from within this large cloud-like formation. The light illuminated the 2 patrol cars below. The vehicles' engines simultaneously stopped dead, and the curious yet fearful guards got out of their patrol cars to get a better look, because none of them had ever seen a UFO. And for the first time ever, they were seeing these fabled crafts that were stalking the Genoa area. Apparently, the Chief Lieutenant Kasiba became so frightened by the sight of the unexplainable aircraft that he actually aimed and shot his firearm at the unknown object after shooting his pants. And just as quickly as Lieutenant Kasiba shot his pistol at the craft, the ethereal lights blinked out of existence and the UFO simply disappeared. Now, unfortunately, one of the 4 guards that witnessed the strange craft, Germano Zanardi, was so traumatized by what he had seen and the fact that everything that Zanfretta had been claiming was seemingly coming true. He actually suffered a mental breakdown, and just a few months after the encounter with the strange craft, Germano ended his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Yeah. Now, if you thought things couldn't get any weirder, on Monday, December 3rd of the same year, 1979, at approximately 9:30 p.m., Zanfretta got out of his patrol car at a self-service gasoline station near downtown Genoa, and while he was gassing up the patrol car, he claims that he heard someone calling his name out from the shadows outside of the gas station. He described the shadowy entity that was speaking to him as a tall, humanoid figure with a bald, egg-shaped head, who was dressed in a checkered suit that included a chest plate made of steel where the t-shirt or dress shirt should have been.
He's bling.
Zanfretta said the sound of this kooky individual's voice was so intense that it felt like he physically lost control of his own body and had been switched into an autopilot mode, and he could no longer express his own free will. This entity apparently ordered him to drive his vehicle into a small cloud that was hovering just above the ground at the petrol station, like a plume of thick, dense fog. Zanfretta did exactly what he's instructed to do, and claims that his patrol car and he were levitated within the cloud and then deposited into a huge spacecraft.
I don't think I'd ever get in a vehicle again.
I don't think I would go by myself anywhere again. You know what? What's odd here is that Zanfretta claims that the new creature's voice didn't seem to be verbally coming from his mouth, but instead he thinks it was communicating telepathically, which is very similar to the many encounters of the Grinning Man, or our old friend Indrid Cold.
Hell yeah.
This time, while on board the ship, the security guard was allowed to explore the craft's interior, but of course with the supervision of the oversized reptilians following him around. Within the colossal craft, Zanfretta claimed to have seen large transparent cylinders filled with a weird blue liquid. One of the cylinders was said to have contained a frog-shaped body, which the aliens explained was an enemy of ours from another planet. In two other cylinders, Zanfretta observed a large bird-like creature and another humanoid figure that he described looking like a caveman. Around this time, these mystifying beings attempted to give Zanfretta a transparent-shaped sphere with what appeared to be an electrically charged pyramid inside. The aliens claimed that utilizing the sphere would enable human beings to comprehend who they were and how they live. Zanfretta tried to refuse the gift.
I've had enough of this shit and all these strange encounters, and wished only to go back to my normal life, god damn it.
Nevertheless, the creatures insisted he accept it, informing him that he was to give the sphere to a man of whose name he had never heard before, but we're going to recognize it almost instantly. The American scientist and UFO researcher, Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Who dat?
Oh, you don't know who that is? Project Blue Book? Google it,
No, I know who that is.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm ashamed. Steve can say he doesn't know who it is, and that's fine. He gets a pass.
Indeed.
But you really ought to watch that History Channel show, Blue Book. It's pretty badass. Zanfretta, for reasons only clear to him, claims that instead of giving the prize to the now deceased Hynek, he instead hid the object somewhere in the hills near Genoa.
AKA his ass.
Zanfretta disappeared again on February 14th, 1980, after which he was found by his colleagues again in a state of shock, this time, though, suffering from mild hypothermia. A villager living nearby stated that mere minutes before the rescuers arrived, he had spied a radiant mass in the sky. During the next hypnosis session, Dr. Moretti found that Zanfretta had been uncharacteristically uncooperative. While hypnotized, he claimed that he was in contact with the aliens and began to speak an odd, unknown language. His voice became guttural, and he uttered cryptic phrases.
Question with negative answer. Tixel, you can't work out anything in a case like this. To believe or not to believe doesn't mean anything. Each thing in its own time.
So wouldn't that be weird? There's a movie I watched not too long ago where that same exact thing happened. And against all odds, Zanfretta managed to vanish yet again on August 13th, 1980. This guy can't catch a break. He's like the fucking Mr. Magoo of alien abductions. This time, however, he was under close observation and was found before the aliens, or Grinning Man for that matter, could contact him. This was then the end of his ordeal, or at least until recently. when the now long-retired security guard claimed the extraterrestrials reinitiated contact. To what end remains to be seen. In 1984, Reno Di Stefano wrote a book about these enigmatic events titled The Zanfretta Case, which details the harrowing events which took place between 1978 and 1980. In that same year, the Italian state national broadcasting network, Rai TV, made a 2-part docudrama series based on the book. While there can be little doubt that the purported series of events that took place near Torgiglia, Italy, borders on the absurd, one cannot dismiss the fact that there were over 60 additional witnesses to this strange aerial phenomena, and at least one poor soul who lost his life because of it. To this day, the perplexing case of Pier Fortunato Zanfretta remains to be one of the most famous accounts of alien abduction ever to hail from Italy. But as frightening as this case is, an excerpt from one of his hypnotic recollections in the form of a warning he seemed to be giving to the aliens might paint a more optimistic picture of the intentions of these visitors.
Listen, guys, I know you're trying to come here more frequently. No, you can't come to Earth. People get scared if they look at you. I mean, you're so fucking ugly. You can't make friendships with a face like that.
Nobody likes you.
Oh, and that, friends, is the story of the Zanfretta Abductions. Much deeper and much more in depth than those paragraphs that we read.
Yeah, my butthole quivering the whole entire time. Damn.
God.
That's just because you want to vape. Yeah, that's a good.
It's funny because it's
that's a good
true.
story.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like it a lot. So I'm tempted to buy that book, but I'm sure it's probably one of those that's just out of print anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, should we plug some stuff and get out of here? Because that single story pretty much took up the entire hour.
Coolio,
Yeah.
man.
Cool. All right. Steve, what you got, man?
Check out our Instagram at PXL Paranormal, right? Awesome. I got it.
You got it that
I remembered
time.
it because it's your gamer tag. Also, check us out on Facebook, Pixelated Paranormal Podcast. Comment, like, share, all that type of stuff. Give us some reviews on iTunes or any of the other devices you can. It'd be much appreciated. And also check out our horror movie podcast, where we go over awesome movies, horror movies in particular. And we are going to be recording a new B-reel here pretty shortly, hopefully. And then still working on our next major episode of the great movie Scream.
And then while you're at it, check out the other shows on the Pixelated Sausage Network. Check out Mark's solo show, Pixelated Sausage. And also check out the brand new anime podcast, Animazingly Baka, or Baka. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's the new podcast with Mark and a buddy of his where they discuss their favorite animes.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool that he's launched. That dude does so much work, from web stuff to podcasting to art. And now he's getting a show under his belt.
Yeah, he's even got his own art on a face mask.
Yeah, I saw that.
So if you want to wear a little bit of marker
for
around,
real? I might order one of those.
Yeah.
That's rad. Hell yeah. But yeah, check it out. First episode, they discuss their top 5 animes and my teen romantic comedy snafu.
Ooh.
Hell
No idea what any of that
All right,
fucking means,
awesome.
but awesome, Mark.
Maybe some of you guys do, and we hope you enjoy it. Cool. Preston, what do you got for us, bud?
All right, listen, guys. There might be a time in your life where you're going to find yourself being abducted by aliens and you're going to be inside the spaceship, stripped down, buck naked, with some weird device strapped around your head, about to get, anally probed. And you got to ask yourself one question. When those ugly motherfuckers are looking at you, do you want to be bringing your B game, or do you want to be bringing your A game with the best goddamn looking and smelling beard this universe has ever seen? And if you answered you want to bring your A game, take yourself over to BigDobsBeardBomb.com and use promo code PXLPARA for 20% off your order and get yourself some succulent scents such as Bay Rum, Dundee Cedar, Mint, Fresh, Citrus, Sweet Tobacco. You can't go wrong with Dobbs, and the aliens will appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
First off,
and
that was
during
great. Second off,
yeah, that was
you spoke more in that
way
ad
beefed up
than you did the
promo.
entire fucking episode with written lines.
I know. No kidding. Hell yeah. Well, and then this time of quarantine, it's important to keep your beard clean. So whilst you're on there, grab yourself some beard soap as well. And then maybe head on over to our other friends over at gunslingersoap.com and see if they got any of that world-class soap. They may be sold out. I'm not sure. I know that they were talking about having some low stock not too long ago. So
That shit's bomb.
cool. Yep. And then, of course, guys, support local. Check out our friends over at Harry and Rock at Fast Print. When everything's back up and running, please get back over to CD Trade Post at Pawnee and Seneca. Say hi to Leslie and the gang. And then we just want to give a shout out to Leslie and John. Hopefully this stuff blows over and we can get back into the studio, aka the lounge in CD Trade Post, and record another roundtable with them.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a
Dude,
good time.
like no shit. Whenever I feel like down or depressed, which is very common a lot of times, but definitely during quarantine, dude, anytime I have any interaction with John or Leslie, instantly puts me in a better mood. They are great people, infectious with good feeling, man.
Yeah, for sure. We are very fortunate to call them not only friends of the show, but also to consider them friends, just our friends, It's pretty wonderful. So I hope you guys are doing well through all of this. So cool. All right. Anything else, guys?
That's it.
Nope.
I know I got to be forgetting something, and I apologize. But yeah. Cool. All right. Well, until next time, guys and gals and ghouls, cheers to the weird shit in the world and those of us that love to talk about it.
And check your colanders.
And stay spooky and stay on the paranormal highway.
The cast at Pixelated Paranormal would like to thank you for listening to this week's episode. Pixelated Paranormal is here to tell you tales of the fantastical, the strange, the unknown. Tales that will move you a little further down the paranormal highway. If you'd like to share your own listener story, we would love to hear it. Email us at pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. Again, that's pixelatedparanormal@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you. Again, thanks for listening to this week's episode of Pixelated Paranormal, your guide to the unusual and the strange.